Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot and welcome to today's reading. So, yesterday we saw that there was kind of a transformation that has happened for your person, but they're still very much working through it. The energy has them anxious, it has them feeling a little bit skittish, but it still kind of seemed like when we got into the extended, it felt like they are likely to communicate with you. Might be some kind of small contacts, multiple contacts instead of one big meaningful one. That was one of the things that came through. So what we wanted to look at in this reading was really, all right, so what does that mean for you? Where are things today, and maybe what could you be doing about this, both within yourself and maybe what could you be doing if there's a need for you to act a certain way in the interaction or to handle it a certain way. So that's kind of what we're going to be looking at today. Get you advice on those things. This will be a general reading for this collective, as always, so it won't resonate with everyone, shouldn't resonate with everyone, but if it does resonate with you, then think about subscribing, hitting like, and maybe go back and look at some of the videos that have come before as well, because those may contain some information that would be useful for you. So we'll go ahead and get started. I think we're going to go ahead and start with the shared energy between you, heavy on their energy, and with that energetic and emotional backdrop. This beginning energy, we get it for context. And so when I think about it, when I think about how the meditation has come out earlier in the morning, when I think about the question that we're ultimately asking, it helps to figure out which kind of context we want. Do we want to focus on your person? Which we do a little bit, but getting that shared energy will be a good thing. So we've got the star. Ultimately, what we have is the two of you moving toward where you're supposed to go. You're moving toward success. You're moving toward not just success, but destiny. So this is not getting off the path. You're still on the path. The Ten of Swords talks about a painful ending. It also talks about pain from long in the past. This is not going to be pain that comes from within this relationship. This is going to be more like that ancient pain that we see, where it's ancient. It's pain that came from within the life, like within your life or within your person's life, but not necessarily. It could have come in from previous generations in the form of values that you've been taught as you are as you were a young child. And so some of those may not actually be ancient pains that you experienced, but it's maybe a little bit more of a vicarious experience of those. Doesn't make it any less real, to be honest. So we also have the Queen of Pentacles. There is a solid stability in this, and I feel like the solid stability in this comes from you, but not really from you. It comes from the idea of you. So this is the strength. This is the what would you do kind of when they get into a tight spot. They may think about how you might handle it. It's the promise of your strength more than actually any energy that's coming from you. And so you are doing some things to kind of bolster this person up, even though you might not realize it, and especially in the face of these ancient pains. So the fact that they're kind of coming to the surface at this point, I think, is important. The fact that the ancient pains are kind of coming to the surface, because I get the sense here that this is a time when that needs to happen. We've had this eclipse. The eclipse cycle has closed. We're still in the middle of this Mercury retrograde, and I feel like, though, it's the Mercury retrograde has just added to something that we've already kind of been experiencing earlier throughout the year. So it just made some of this a formality, and we have definitely seen some of those things that you typically see during a Mercury retrograde, but what I will tell you is that we were already seeing a fair amount of this type of activity even before it started. So it's done, what it's done is kind of heightened a little bit more. So here we have the Empress. We have the Empress because it is the feminine energy is kind of creating the light. It's casting the light in this situation. Sometimes, as you go through your experience together, and whether that experience is just very brief or whether it is through lifetimes, there's always going to be somebody who's kind of leading the way and casting the light at that time. Right now, if this is the feminine, and a lot of you, regardless of what gender you are playing the role of the divine feminine in this situation. So the divine feminine, everyone knows that, or everyone has that feminine and masculine energy within them. You could play either role in the situation, so it doesn't have anything to do with what your gender is, but this is the feminine energy leading the way, casting the light. And right now it's a little bit heavier of a load on that feminine. However, there's also more capacity to carry that load. The other side is almost like a dead weight right now, with a need to control, with a need to kind of remain like they appear that they're in control, or they appear that they need to feel like they don't ever get out of control from an emotional standpoint. What it means, though, is that we have a lot of unrest in here. We have a lot of unrest because that masculine side, not feeling really shored up right now, is seeing some instability. It's a little bit more difficult for them to juggle even just the daily things. Something has happened with them. We know that from watching the other readings. Something has happened with them with regard to their third party energy, where a change has occurred that things can't go back to the way they were. And so we see their energy kind of slanted, or almost like it's not even operating on a flat plane. It's at a disadvantage because of the fact that they are feeling unstable. They're feeling like something in their foundation has kind of crumbled. Whereas you have, in a previous reading here, felt like it seemed like your foundation was kind of changing and shifting beneath you. It also felt like you had kind of this core stability that makes this okay. They need to develop that core stability. And right now they're devoting an awful lot of energy to that juggling and trying to make things right. So we have here the Six of Pentacles in the reverse, basically just saying this is not a great time for them to try and do things right from a relationship standpoint. So again, you may have somebody who's heading your direction, but they may not be quite ready. So they've undergone this transformation, like I was saying, but they're not ready to use all of it yet. They're not yet comfortable in that new skin. And like we've seen in some of the previous readings, and like I even named yesterday's reading, they're feeling like they're out at sea without a paddle, just kind of hanging out there adrift, held back from committing by something that controls them and makes them feel unsafe. However, here's the thing. One of the things that we talked about here in the recent, one of the recent readings, was about how their emotion, when it comes back for them, it isn't the first time they're seeing it. So this isn't their first time interacting with you from an emotional standpoint. Same with situations that are kind of controlling them. They have been working through, just like you have, they've been working through some of the situations that control them. So we see the Devil in reverse. Basically, it's the promise of, and it's another promise or concept of, it's the promise of them being able to work through this too. So they've been working through some things. They definitely have something that controls them, makes them feel unsafe, but this is hope. When I see the Devil in the reverse here, what I'm seeing is them overcoming energy that controls them, and it's because they have a momentum going. They have created a little history for themselves of overcoming things that control them. So that's pretty fantastic. It brings them all of this energy is kind of bringing them your direction. But it's a mixed bag, lots of unstable energy at this time with the Eight of Pentacles in the reverse. One of the things you'll see is maybe an uncomfortable level of reverence from them. So them kind of putting you on a pedestal and considering the way that you handle things emotionally, maybe a little bit more, thinking about it a little bit more than giving it a little bit more credit than you do. Let's say it that way. This is not a concept that is exactly new. So they have revered you. One of the reasons that they have stayed quiet or stayed less vulnerable is because they feel a little self-conscious about that. But they've got this desire to move forward. It feels like it's almost like I have to do something, but I don't know exactly how this is going to work. So they don't come out of the gate with ideas about how they're going to make everything work. They just sort of wing it. There's a feeling of winging it. We've seen that a couple of times in these readings. So we have the Two of Swords again with the decision that needs to be made, something that needs to be talked about. There's something here that needs to be talked about. And let's see, I want to do these in the order they came out. We have the Page of Cups. So this is specifically telling us that there is a difficult time talking about this. It's a difficult time talking about this, and with the Wheel of Fortune, one of the other things that we see is this Wheel of Fortune we have seen in this position in yesterday's reading. I can't remember if it was the YouTube reading or the extended, but we saw it there talking about change that can't happen, and it's because that vulnerability level can't be reached because that conversation is so difficult to have. So this is something that they need to work on within themselves. They've got something that's creating pressure, pushing them your direction. But it's important to note that, like, they can only go that direction so fast. If they're not ready to have that conversation, they are maybe just legitimately not ready to have that conversation. That has to be okay. Both you and them have to give them permission to do the healing in this case. So that's going to be a little bit of timing, a little bit of kind of timing that is pushed off and maybe a little uncomfortable to both of you. Because remember, they've been feeling like they're being held back, that they are in a stagnant situation and would like to be able to burst forth. You know, the truth is they're not healed enough to burst forth, but they don't exactly know that. I understand why they are feeling the way that they are, but it looks like they're going to have maybe a little bit more time in the thinking cave, maybe a little bit more time working toward building that vulnerability, so that they can more properly move forward with this and with you. So let's take a look now at what else you can expect, what else you need to be doing, and what you need to know about this. Because like I said, it seems likely for them to come in, but it may be small contacts that are multiple contacts instead of one big meaningful one. We've already seen this starting to develop where you see somebody kind of poking and then running away, standing you up, not showing up, not calling when they say they're going to call, after being very aware that this has been a problem in the past. It is not unclear at this point. Again, as they're moving into this direction emotionally, they are doing so with the awareness of what they're stepping into, a little bit more of an awareness of what they're stepping into, but not quite with the capacity to follow it up. And we see that here with the Temperance card. This is something that has to be built in them. This is part of their healing process, part of their healing path. And so it's almost like they have to come in and fail at something. It doesn't have to be failing the entire relationship or ruining the entire relationship, but there is something here about them learning, because they're learning what their capacities are and how they choke themselves up, because choke themselves up they do. This is the Chariot in the reverse. It's kind of, I know I need to move over here with the Chariot going forward, but being all choked up and just not being able to like get themselves to move. There's that feeling of just like in a dream where you can't move. It's that kind of incapacity to move very quickly. Like they have to cross a busy street, but for some reason they can't make their legs move. It's that sort of feeling, but really this is discomfort that comes from not being able to navigate the overall situation because they need to spend more time healing in that situation. So we've got the Sire of Swords here in the reverse. One of the things that they really could benefit from is putting some of their intellect on this, actually taking a step back, looking at the big picture and saying, okay, what actually needs to happen here? What do I feel like I need to have happen here? And they are not doing that because it's too overwhelming. Like this, it's overwhelming, and they would rather take things in a smaller amounts, smaller chunks. That's not entirely bad, but this is fast moving energy, and they're going to get overwhelmed even just with the speed that things are moving. There is a lot of intensity here for them to overcome. So this is them waking up in the middle of the night. It's them not being able to get to sleep. It's thinking that things that they thought they were done being obsessed over are back for them again, and now they're recognizing everything they ever did right, everything they ever did wrong, and they're seeing the missed opportunity in the situation. So this is the sun in the reverse. It represents that missed opportunity for us, and the judgment card has everything to do with them being able to see that a little bit more clearly. So we've seen an increasing level of awareness in this person, almost like they're just kind of gradually waking up. So right now, unfortunately, it's like they're waking up in the middle of a storm, and so everything's blowing which way, and it's not super clear to them what needs to happen, or they're just trying to even gather everything, which again is a strength of theirs that they're not using. I think it's disorientation that's kind of driving them not using that, and a need for them to realize like what is next? What is the thing that makes them happy? At this point, the cat is out of the bag. They have figured out that the thing that they thought would make them happy does not make them happy. So this is, again, shifting with that third party and the realization that there's just not going to be, things will never be the same with this. So it could be a job where they've gotten past the honeymoon, they see the reality of the situation, and they feel a little bit trapped, or because they can't walk away because it's their livelihood, but it's a place that they no longer want to be, or it's a marriage that they pursued because it looked really great on paper. Everybody's parents are happy, everything looks good, but they're not happy. It's something like that. There's an outrageous amount of, I talked about waking up in the middle of the night. I talked about not being able to get to sleep, that fast moving energy. And this is the anxiety that comes along with it. So there's a lot of anxiety. We saw that in yesterday's energy too, in the kind of the energy that was hanging around them and hanging in the undertones. There was that anxiety, that skittish feeling, that overthinking, that tendency for them to get your attention and then freak out and run away. It definitely has that in it. There's a strong sense of lack of balance and overwhelm, and yet it's like the two of you are moving toward one another, and we saw this in one of the readings not too long ago. It's like emotionally and energetically you're both moving toward each other for solace, to get warm in each other's feelings of emotion and love. But it's not necessarily that simple, because it is very much, the emotions that you guys are feeling are very much intertwined with each other. So there's a lot that's going on that is also maybe not specifically associated with each other. And that's where you tend to want to move closer together, closer emotionally to one another. But there's just such a strong sense of, I don't know, not feeling safe, wanting to get into that place of safety, and then realizing, oh no, part of the reason I don't feel safe is because of the lessons I feel like I'm being forced to learn here. So here we have a Page of Swords and a Page of Wands. The Page of Swords is in the upright, which I love. That is a willingness to try new things. It's almost like, I call it my minor arcana fool card sometimes. But they're going to have to overcome some momentum, or lack of momentum, I guess I would say. The Page of Wands represents this lack of momentum. Feels almost like depression, especially as it comes out next to this Three of Wands, because this is that feeling of being out to sea without a paddle and just kind of hanging out there. Like I said, they're hanging out there just adrift. This is I've gotten pushed out, and this is as far as the boat went. Now it's lost momentum. It's just kind of drifting out there. And there's definitely a need to move in a direction, like we saw over here. There's a feeling of a need to move, but there's some disorientation, and like I said, that lack of momentum that's causing them to kind of sit where they are. So be prepared for that. But the thing that seems to be bringing them out of momentum, bringing them out of sitting still, creating a little momentum for them, is a need to resolve some of that ancient pain. The tricky bit is, how much control they feel like they need to exert over it. We keep having this Queen of Pentacles in the reverse show up as an honorable mention, and it shows up as an honorable mention in the reverse because it's a self-worth issue on their side. So we've heard a ton about the self-worth issues on the Divine Feminine side. Divine Feminine's been working through it. That's you guys, been working through it and have made some fairly significant strides in this area. But now what we're seeing is that they are suffering from it, some need to make some improvements there as well, that they would benefit from some growth in this area. They are gravitating your direction because of, we have like the Ten of Swords here, that desire to deal with and address that ancient pain. It just kind of is pervasive and won't go away for them. But there's this tendency to want to control the situation, to want to control, as we've talked about in the past, the narrative, to control the behaviors, to control what people see and how people feel about it. That is so overwhelming for them that it gets in the way of their success. So this is an ego-driven thing, but not necessarily they're not necessarily doing this on purpose to create a controlling situation. It's defense mechanisms that drive them into that place. So let's look at when I'm going to go into the extended with this, because over here is going to be the you portion of the reading that we do every day. But when we go into the extended with this, I'd like us to look into a little bit more of what's happening with that third party, because I'm seeing the echoes of it. I'm seeing them not having addressed whatever they need to address. So we know that there has been a shift there, that, you know, something that cannot go back. It's something that is a permanent shift that's happened with this third party. But we also know that the reason that they were being held in that place was to learn lessons. If they are not learning those lessons, they are still going to have to address them some kind of way. So I feel like they're also being pulled back to address these things with that third party some way, whether it's a job or a family member or a spouse or long-term relationship, whatever that third party is, or there may be more than one of them. As far as more than one force. So it could be their job and a person in their family, for example. But we're going to investigate that pull and just kind of see what that control is, because I feel like that's a little bit of that control that's kind of still making them feel unsafe in moving forward. So before we get into that extended, we're going to do the you portion of the reading. This is the part where we look at what the focus needs to be for you, given the rest of what we see here. And I started doing this, as I mentioned yesterday, because this is something that, you know, we used to do a reading once in a while to talk about your lessons, and it was clear that it needs to come out in every reading. That's the focus that we need to make. This is a group that is so focused on making progress, so focused on making things right and doing this healing, that we should give time to it every day. So the first thing that came up was the Lover's card. And so that talks about the bond, between the two of you, and the fact that these lessons are here to be learned. But it's a reminder that it's kind of the purpose of the lesson. One of the lessons that you have, though, that you are going to probably want to focus on in the near term is, what do you do when you figure out that you're being presented with something that seems too good to be true? So like this soulmate that's coming in. Yeah, here we go. Two of Cups. You've got this soulmate coming in. Might already be here. There's an opportunity. We've been hearing about this. An opportunity that's available to you. And the opportunity itself is a cool one. It puts you in kind of a new position to experience something you haven't experienced before. So there's a lot of positivity in this, a lot of opportunity to learn, but it's also, the main purpose of this opportunity is to kind of expose you to someone who is able to give you some incredible teachings. And this is a soulmate. Like we talked about in the past, this is somebody that you could potentially marry, but it is also someone who is here to teach you something that you're now ready for based on what you've learned with this divine masculine. But the cool thing is that they're going to prepare you to deal with some of the lessons that you're still working through. So just like this divine masculine doesn't get to abandon the lessons that they've been working on with this third party, even if they go as far as to abandon the third party, you have some lessons that even if you walk away from this masculine and never see them again, you still have to address those lessons. So this is going to put you in a better position to do that. Now, you will be met with some triggering, some overthinking. This is overthinking and triggering on your part. I do believe it could be short-lived. So I think what you're going to do is you're going to look overall at, this is where you look at the steps that you've already taken. So we've talked about this in the past, the concept of make sure that you, when you come across this person, when you interact with this person, your divine masculine, be gentle. Don't say anything that you would regret, because ultimately you're going to have this reverberate in your mind most likely, and you want to make sure that you can stand behind the decisions you made, the reasons that you made them. And because you've got this new soulmate coming, there's definitely a need. Here's another 10 of Cups. So we've seen the 10 of Cups come out here a couple of times, particularly with regard to this soulmate and them being something that seems almost too good to be true. But again, what's special about this is that it develops a little bit more slowly, and so you're not necessarily aware that this is happening as it starts to dawn on you that there is a special bond here as well. This bond is also related to lessons, but it's a much quieter, easier bond. The lessons are more enjoyable, easier to learn. You are spending time in this this learning cave. So there's been a need for you to do that, a need for you to meditate, a need for you to spend that quiet time. And I see you doing that. I see opportunity for you to do that at the very least. So this is something that you are going to want to take that opportunity. Think about why you're here and why you're here in this point in the healing in the healing cycle, because with the King of Pentacles in the reverse, you may feel like, and this may be a symptom of kind of advancing a little bit more quickly, but you might not feel like you're quite worthy of what is, what's presented to you. So you have abundance coming your way and you have to be ready to receive it, is what I'm getting there. Now with the Nine of Wands, that's a feeling of resistance. So watch for that in yourself, particularly as it relates to this tendency to want to deserve something. And as you're sitting in meditation, so you've got the recommendation to sit in meditation, sit in prayer. As you're sitting there, listen for the messages that come in. You're not necessarily looking to connect with anyone or anything in particular, but there are messages coming from you, and I think the vast majority of them would be coming through your higher self, which is like the safest way for them to come in. Just watch for it, though. There's something there that's going to be useful for you, and you might even be able to gather to you the identity of this soulmate. But I wouldn't go out there searching for it. I would just say, probably shouldn't even said that. Yeah, don't necessarily go out there grabbing and searching for the knowledge. Just sit and allow it to come to you. That's the nature of that hermit energy. So here with the Knight of Cups, you may feel the desire and a fear about reaching out to this person once you figure out that they are a little bit more bonded to you than you realized. Whoever this new soulmate is, they're going to be helping you through things. There's going to be something that you don't know about them, though, and I think it's a little bit... it's going to take you a little bit of getting used to, I would just say. So it garners a significant change. We got the Hanged Man here, and then we've got the Death card. It garners a significant change. The Death card is all about change, but it's not necessarily bad change. So again, you're going to learn some lessons here. I think you're going to spend a little bit of time triggered, which you handle quickly. You're going to spend a little bit of time off kilter and juggling with feeling like your foundation is shifting beneath you. But because I said like earlier, because of that core foundation that you've kind of built, you are going to be in a good position to weather all of that. What you come out with is something a lot more graceful and a lot more capable of opening yourself to good things. You know, there's a lot of positivity here, but one of the lessons that I think you're learning from this soulmate is about opening yourself to good things, about accepting it, accepting the fact that you deserve or that you can be deserving of it. So you have, again, some new perspectives to gather here, but you have information that wants to come to you. So open yourself to that. We're going to go ahead and go into the extended. The link is down below in the description for the video. And again, like I said, we're going to go into what's happening with this third party and some of the pressures that are happening there. So I will see you in that extended video, or I will see you again in tomorrow's video.